Hi, folks. I'm Bill Patalon, co-founder of Stock Pickers Corner. We're here with another of our quarterly roundtables. My guest today is our good friend Danny Brody. Danny is the founder publisher of the Net Worth Club here on Substack. If you haven't checked it out, you really need to. It's great. Danny's going to talk to us today about commodities, and this is an area he's got a lot of expertise in. I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but Danny is head of a team that's looking to buy a copper mine in Africa. He's been involved in the commodity space, including in gold, for a long time. So he speaks. He knows of whence he speaks, and he's a good guy, smart guy, very open. So let's get into what I'm going to call today Lithium 101. And Danny, thanks for being here on Stock Pickers Corner.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Bill. Good to be back as always. Yeah, looking forward to getting into this one on lithium.
Yeah, before we do that, I just, this copper mine project of yours fascinates me. I mean, this is the kind of thing that we read about, but like actually getting to talk to someone that's doing something like this is like very cool. Just give us a rundown on maybe a little bit about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and if you can give us an update on what's happening, that would be great too.
Yeah, for sure. So it's I'm the CEO of a company called Bromac Resources, in addition to quite a few other things that I'm also working on, as you know. And Bromac has signed a letter of intent to acquire a very prospective license in North Zambia. So what we're trying to do is we feel that there's going to be a massive copper find there. Our neighbors are Cobalt Metals, which is backed by Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. They've literally just announced the largest copper discovery of the last 100 years. So we're right along strike on that. We've signed the deal. We're working on updating all of our technical reports, including the 43101, which is the main technical report that the geologists create for you. And the investment banks want to see that one updated from previous resource estimates. So what's going to happen is, as soon as that's updated, we're going straight to the investment banks. We're going to try to raise $20 to $30 million and list it publicly in Canada. So we'll see how it goes, but we've got all the right ingredients, including the team, to really take it to the next level. So there we are.
That sounds great. I mean, you have to keep us informed on that. We'll visit again on that very topic.
I definitely will, and it'll be fun for the readers to kind of follow along, because I don't think there's many people that kind of do what I do that are also public about it. Usually this stuff kind of happens in the background. But I like to do it publicly. I like to share my experiences. There's a lot of trials and tribulations, if you will, but at the end of the day, it's a lot of fun for me to do both. So that's why I like doing both. And it'll be fun to follow along for the ride.
Well, I thank you for that. And again, I mentioned this. I know we talked about this in our walk-up discussion. One of the reasons I really wanted to put a fine point on this is it like it anchors you, cements you as a commodities expert. And I know you're involved in other areas too. But we've been having some interesting discussions, over the last couple of months about lithium. So I've called this Lithium 101 because we've all had that Econ 101 or English 101 classes back in college. It's the basics. It's kind of the entry level. It kind of sets the table. It kind of gives you what you need to know moving forward. So let's just take it from there. I mean, Lithium 101. I mean, what is lithium? What is it used for? Why is it so important right now?
For sure. So lithium is definitely one of my favorite metals. I think along with copper and gold right now as well. I know we've predicted copper making new highs last year. It did make new highs. We've predicted gold making new highs this year. We are now over $2,500 an ounce, where a gold bar costed $1 million for the first time in history. Lithium is, I would say, no different, but obviously it is different in the sense that it's got quite a few use cases relative to gold. It's not just a hedge on inflation and an alternative asset class to hold, but lithium's used in so many different things. Most people know it as being used in electric vehicles, but it's used in lithium batteries in pacemakers. It's used in smartphones. It's used in digital cameras and laptops and watches. You've got your solar energy storage, but at the end of the day, the real investable opportunity is going to be its use case for electric vehicles, right? That's what everyone's talking about, and I'm happy to break down some of those numbers in a second here for you. But yeah, I mean, lithium ion batteries are used in EVs because they can store a large amount of energy into a smaller package, right? So they don't have to take up a lot of room compared to other types of batteries. And they hold both high and low temperatures, right? So they don't really wear down as easily. So they're such a versatile battery for electric vehicles. So couple quick numbers here for you. If you look at in 2020, worldwide lithium demand for EV batteries was 113,000 metric tons. But by 2025, that number is expected to jump to 787,000 metric tons and even cross the 2 million metric ton mark by 2030. So at the end of the day, it just comes down to supply demand, and EV demand is going through the roof. And you can see demand is climbing considerably as it's used in almost every piece of technology that I listed. So I do like lithium, and I think the market is looking ripe for a bottom. But I'll pause there. I think we'll probably come back to the specifics of pricing right now.
People think about you say electric vehicles, and people think cars or even those kind of cool semi trucks that we were talking about Elon in the walk up discussion. I mean, those cool semi trucks, but I mean, electric vehicles don't just drive on roads. They fly through the air, and they go under the sea too in terms of drones, right? I mean, there's a huge, I grew up as the son of a defense contractor engineer, and I'm of a particular interest in aerospace, and he did a lot of stuff for the Navy. So I know that like I've watched there's a big uptake in electric vehicles, in terms of, aircraft and seagoing vehicles for that as well. So it's not just a consumer thing. It's a military demand as well, correct?
Oh, big time. And then not only that, but you've got your EV tolls as well, right? Like the I guess they're the taxis of the sky as
Right.
as they're
Right.
being hailed. So you've got several different companies that have IPO'd that are doing that recently and raising hundreds of millions of dollars. And yeah, so it's definitely not just EVs on the ground, but that's part of the reason the demand for lithium is going to start going through the roof here again, just like it did in 2017, 2018, and then again in 2021, 22. 22 was the big year. So you kind of see these trends where it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger all the way up. So I think it's going to get pretty exciting in the next kind of 6 to 18 months here.
We've positioned this as a lithium 101, and an econ 101 is, and you mentioned this already, it's supply and demand, and some of the other discussions you and I have had about commodities. When you look out kind of in the out years past, in the late part of this decade and even beyond, there is a huge like supply shortfall, like in copper, which is one of the discussions we had. We've seen that in some other commodities as well. Are you seeing that same dynamic here in lithium?
Yeah. So it's been pretty incredible to watch. I mean, and I've watched lithium since 2010, right? Like when I started at Canaccord, I was a broker at Canaccord, investment advisor. I used to manage wealth for clients. I saw a company called Canada Lithium Corp start to go through the roof in 2010. A few years later, they were acquired by RB Energy through a business combination. Then they went into creditor protection. They were ultimately bought by another Canadian mining company. They changed hands again in 2020 or 2021, I think it was. But now they operate under a company named Piedmont Lithium, or PLL, which is trading at, I think they're $8 or $9 on NASDAQ right now. But it's one of the largest sources of hard rock lithium in America. And I watched that company's assets go through that whole cycle over 15 years. So I've seen what happens to the underlying stocks when the underlying commodity starts going through the roof. Like another example is one of my good buddies, Brian Pesbrega, built a company in 2015. They launched. He partnered with Frank Giustra and Paul Matisic on that property, which are two of the most prominent mining moguls in the world. I mean, Frank Giustra is a billionaire, and Paul Matisic has sold like 8 of his companies. So he's done really well. But I remember they closed a placement in, I think it was December of 2015. They closed few million dollars at 30 cents, and within 18 months, they had sold for 265 million, right? So, and this is my buddy, like we know each other very well. So he timed that perfectly. But what that tells me about the market is that, you know, I believe timing is everything, but this is just proof in the pudding that timing really is everything. Obviously, you got to have the right, things that go into it. You got to have the right team, you got to have the right asset, etc. But he timed that perfectly. So lithium in 2015 was $6,500 per ton, 8,600 in 2016, 15,000 in 2017, and then when they sold in 2018, it was $16,000. So, and he basically just timed that perfectly, right? You come out, lithium doubled or 2.5x. They had a good asset and then they sold it. So, well, I think we are seeing a demand supply differential right now because we've got way too much supply in the markets right now. I don't think that's going to last a whole lot longer. Lithium peak. I'll just say a couple
Sure.
quick things. Lithium peaked at $86,000 per ton in 2022. We're down to $10,000 right now. So it's gone from 86,000 down to 22,000. And that is due to, just like you said in the question, which is all to do with oversupply, right? You look at company or countries like China that have literally ramped up their production by 44% in 2023 alone, starting to significantly oversupply in the market, right? We had 180,000 metric tons of oversupply in the market right now. Just in 2024, we're seeing 180,000 metric tons of oversupply. So where I'm going with this, and back to your question of when does this kind of ease, right? When does that oversupply start to fade away and we start to get back to the demand side? Well, all the analysts out there are forecasting late 2024 to mid 2025. So as new projects have been delayed or scaled back due to those low prices, obviously that'll keep prices low, production cuts, and ultimately the massive growth in EV demand, I think, will help propel those scales back in favor of demand. And a lot of the stocks are going to start to skyrocket because that's going to cause the price of lithium to skyrocket.
And you don't want to be buying, like, the time to buy is when prices are low. I mean, you'd be a bit of a contrarian, be out of step with the masses. You don't want to be playing FOMO. I mean, you want to be ahead of the crowd. You want people to be chasing you, right?
Yeah, you really do. And at the end of the day, that's what my philosophy comes down to. I like to pick sectors that I like, and then I find companies within those sectors, just for my own portfolios at least. Find sectors I like, find companies within those sectors, and then I time it with the technicals, right? So right now, I think is the time to be picking away at a lot of these lithium companies because lithium prices are down 75%. I think now is the time to be picking away at copper prices because we just made new highs in March or April, and now we're down back around $4. So you find the right companies within the right sectors and you time them perfectly. Buy on weakness, right? Always buy on weakness, like we saw 2 Mondays ago on that crazy Japanese carry trade unwinding, right? There's so many good opportunities there. It's a perfect example. Find stuff that goes on sale, right? It's no different than going to shop at Costco or Target. You want to find stuff on sale. But for some reason, people always think the opposite in the stock market and they run for the hills when stuff goes on sale.
Yeah, we wrote about that here too our timing was perfect. But it takes a little bit of fortitude. It takes a little bit of independent thinking. But I agree with you. Be opportunistic. What is the old saying? Buy on the cannon, sell on the trumpets.
Yeah, buy the sizzle, not the steak.
That's right. That's right. Well, I mean, so let's get a little more specific here. I mean, I know people need to do their own due diligence. They need to make sure that they're comfortable with what they're buying. But like in terms of specific opportunities, I mean, could you maybe, like, one comes to mind? I think we talked a little bit about this in our walk-up discussion. Albemarle Corp. Could you maybe just give us a little bit of a rundown on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked Albemarle. I mean, they're the largest producer of lithium, or at least one of the largest producers of lithium. They're a $10 billion company, right? They also operate, not just lithium, but they're working on becoming a fully vertically integrated lithium company. So they operate lithium extraction facilities, they refine lithium compounds, they provide lithium derivatives, right? So it's not just the production side. They're really working on becoming a full vertically integrated lithium company. But most importantly, they're the largest supplier of lithium that goes into car batteries for EVs. So it's definitely an interesting company. Yeah, their market cap's just shy of 10 billion right now. To me, the best part is remember how I talked about Lithium X there? They timed the market perfectly, right? From 2015 to 2017 when they sold, or maybe it's early 18, 27. Anyway, they timed it perfectly when they sold. Well, when lithium went to 86,000 in November of 2022, Albemarle or ALB, which is their ticker, they traded up from $48 in 2020 up to $334 in 2022. Okay, so that's a 415% move higher, right? So now lithium's back down to these same levels of same low levels of 2019, 2020. And ALB is trading at just $88, right? They're down from 345, I think it was, down to 88. So it's been a wild ride, to say the least, but of course, I mean, looking backwards isn't where you make the money, right? So there's a few
Right.
interesting developments that we can touch on there, but I think it's just from a macro perspective alone, you can just see how much they've come off with the price of lithium coming down.
What time frame would you be looking at? Would you be thinking you'd be, kind of considering right here as far as that kind of rebound?
Well, to me, it just comes down to kind of like I mentioned. I think the oversupply that's predominantly caused from China's overproduction is going to start to get worked through, right? We're at a level of lithium that, this is kind of the bottom, right? Like this was the low of 2019, 2021. It's been the low of 23, 24, right? Where we are now. Kind of 10, 12,000 per metric ton. If we go back to half of what lithium was, which is easily conceivable as part of the trend, I think this thing's gonna go through the roof, and a whole bunch of other lithium companies will go with it. Like, I mean, just look at the demand, right? The number we gave before was 2 million metric tons by 2030, but that's also, I don't think I mentioned this, but that's a battery grade lithium for specifically for car batteries, right? That was the 2 million metric tons by 2030. But what's also forecasted is 3.8 million tons by 2035, which is a significant jump over the 1 million where we're at right now. But that's for all lithium, right? So that's a 4x increase from where we are now. So there's massive momentum in the space. So once this oversupply gets worked through, I think it's just a matter of time before lithium starts to move again, and thus the stocks that are doing anything in lithium will start to move with it. So, yeah, I think it's just a matter of time.
Okay. I mean,
So, they're back to Albemarle, can never pronounce it, but ABL. I mean, they're working on exciting things. So, I mean, they just signed a partnership with BMW in 2024 to help them pursue what they're calling high performance premium EVs, right? So they're going to be supplying them with all the lithium batteries they need for that initiative. They're expanding and upgrading their facilities in Australia and in China. They've announced some joint ventures that they're streamlining. So, I mean, they're working on a lot, right? They're a $10 billion company. As $10 billion companies do, you're always working on things. But the big thing that I like is the vertical integration. I think they're going to have so much cost savings from that. But as of right now, their financials paint a bit of a grim picture. I mean, their Q2 numbers, they're down 75% quarter over quarter on EBITDA because lithium prices have dropped so much. So it's tough to see how much their financials have been impacted, but at the same time, that's also the opportunity, right? Like lithium has stabilized. This is historically the price that it's leveled out at over time. So the second this starts moving up, the second you start seeing that oversupply starting to dwindle and the demand scale, right, turning back to this, the scale is going to flip back to the demand side. you'll start to see all these different lithium stocks slowly start to move. And the forecast is for end of this year or early to mid next year. So again, it just comes down to picking good stocks that are undervalued at times of trouble where the market can turn like that. And as you know better than anyone, Bill, because you've been in the business for a while, the fear and greed index, right? Fear and greed changes on a dime. So I don't think it's going to take long, but there's some pretty good stock picks out there.
Okay. I think this is a great story. I think you've taken us from Lithium 101 through 201, 301, and I think people are now ready to work on the advanced level course.
Oh boy,
Very-
I get carried away and like to nerd out a little bit over this stuff. So forgive me for going into too much detail in some areas, but hopefully
No apologies
the
necessary.
audience enjoys it.
Good stuff. I mean, we get a lot of good response to the talks we have with you. I mean, this has been no exception. I enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to want to circle back with you about both the copper mine, and I know you have some interesting thoughts on gold as well. We're going to be, I mean, yeah, I saw the same story you did that gold bars are now $1 million a piece for the first time in history. That's pretty fascinating. It's a psychologically significant point, if nothing else, and a good point in
True.
history.
True.
Good storyline.
Are you going to be selling all yours? Or are you going to hold on to all your gold bars?
Well, that vault in the cellar is looking pretty good right now. So,
Fair enough, Phil. Fair enough. I love it.
we'll circle back. I always enjoy our talks with you. I think you do a nice job, folks. If you haven't checked out the Net Worth Club, you really need to. I mean, Danny has access to a group of folks that and he, as he said at the beginning, he's willing to share his insights. That's part of part of what makes him who he is. Check out the Net Worth Club and look for us to be back here again talking to Danny about copper and gold. Danny, thanks for being here.
Of course, Bill. Thanks for having me and looking forward to the next time we do this.